What's something that happens after you give birth that people don't tell you about? Cramping as your uterus goes back to its pre-pregnancy size. Your insides go sloosh down the first moment you stand up after giving birth. Your nurses have to check the location and firmness of your uterus at different intervals for the remainder of your hospital stay. This can be extremely uncomfortable, and if your uterus isn't firm, they have to rub it to get it to tone up to decrease your risk of bleeding. You can have severe muscle aches all over your body. You've just run a marathon and your body is gonna hurt. Your baby can puke up amniotic fluid and sometimes even dried blood, which looks like brown icky smelling bubbles. And all of a sudden your breasts become a central topic of speculation and conversation for your nurse, doctor, and your partner. Bleeding. For weeks. Reading these comments, I can't believe every person on earth right now has come from a woman who's had to experience these things. It sounds horrific, I'm not going to lie. Hemorrhoids are common, and they may not go away without medical intervention. The massage on your stomach to get the placenta out. Oh my god. I passed out because it hurt so bad. I was not prepared for how painful my milk coming in would be. ID just pushed a kid out my vagina after 4 days of labor and 3 hours of pushing. I thought I'd been through it all and was mostly done. Then my milk came in. Oh my god. Having your boobs go up several cup sizes rapidly is not comfortable at all. I had a really hard time with it and nursing. My kid nursed great actually. I hated it. I'm sorry. After you get over the milk coming in pain, your nipples start chafing and bleeding from it all. It was like constant boob torture, but I remember being so shocked at how painful that was at first. At some point, with no real training or any kind of tests, they just leave you alone with the baby. You have to figure everything out. When to feed them, how many layers to dress them in, where to put them when they are sleeping, what to do when they aren't sleeping and you need to poop. There is no manual that matches your personality and the baby's. What works for one parent-baby combo won't necessarily work for a different combo, and there will be people who refuse to accept that. I sleep trained, and it was magic. I breastfed them until they were 6. We only feed 100 organic food that was produced within 100 km of our house. We just said no. And that was it. The first blowout. Within the first couple of weeks, baby just let loose and baby crap basically exploded everywhere. It was absolutely a two-person cleanup as one took the baby, and the other took everything he hit. Also, one tiny little droplet of blood from a razor-sharp fingernail nick would fill a baby's entire nostril, making a new, sleep-deprived mom suspect a brain bleed. Dealing with an infant and PPD is so incredibly hard. That first poop. So much swelling in my feet and legs it hurt. Went away after a few days. How intensely you shake after you give birth. You start shivering like you've been outside in freezing weather without a jacket for over an hour. You literally can't control it. When I started shaking about an hour after birth, was so freaked out. I kept getting the shakes for about a day. Weirdest involuntary reflex ever. Breastfeeding a newborn is incredibly difficult, and there's no amount of research that can prepare you for it. Their tiny mouths chafe the shit out of your nipples. You can end up feeding them for 40 minutes out of every 2 hours, which means sleeping an hour at a time at most. It's physically challenging to position a tiny ragdoll to hold on and drink. You can get an infection called mastitis that temporarily dries up your milk and is excruciatingly painful with a raging fever. And that's all assuming you have good supply and your baby is able to latch. And I had an easy time breastfeeding, did it for a year and a half. I had always heard breastfeeding is hard, but even after I took 2 courses and read several books on the subject, I still couldn't understand what I'm missing until I actually had the baby in my arms and a nurse shoving my titty into his mouth. Postpartum preeclampsia is a thing. You could be fine your entire pregnancy and then after having the baby develop it out of nowhere. Had I not have had to have an emergency C-section, baby's heart rate was plummeting and stay that extra day in the hospital. They wouldn't have caught the preeclampsia. The doctor told me it was so bad I'd have been dead. And I know myself, I wouldn't have gone to the doctor because I would thought it was just me feeling like crap after having a baby. Nope. They told me straight up I would've died in a few days. My blood pressure was so dangerously high. Ladies, keep an eye on your blood pressure after you give birth. Everything already feels weird, but keep an eye on it for a week or so at least and don't hesitate to go to the ER if something feels wrong. Bring the baby with you. They'll take care of it while they check you out. Don't die because you think you're inconveniencing someone. I think you actually have to take the baby home. PPD and the doctor doesn't listen to you and tells you it'll go away in 6 weeks. All while you're laying bed fucking depressed as hell and have suicidal thoughts. The PPD did not go away in 6 weeks. Note, this was years ago and I am still alive. I do not need Reddit cares. Breastfeeding is not an exact science and often has crazy complications that can be debilitating. It doesn't make you less of a woman or a mom if it doesn't work out. The human body is an unstable miracle that doesn't always perform as expected. Ignore the hate you may get for it. A lot. Let me give you a few examples such as postpartum hair loss, emotional roller coaster, and physical recovery challenges. These things usually happens with hormone level changes and negative emotional feeling.